Hello Play the Games, it's Boobity2 here and welcome back to PLAYtheGAMEcentral, and in this video I'm going to be giving you a big old list filled with all of the Wunder weapons which can be found in Call of Duty Zombies. And I'm not going to be giving you like spurious facts like fire rate and magazine size and all that kind of stuff, because you already know what that is, or it's irrelevant, or you can see it in the video. So I'm not going to be going into too much detail about that, but I'm going to be clarifying what is a Wunder weapon, what isn't a Wunder weapon, the Wunder weapons which we have, what they do, specifically anything special that they do, and stuff like that. So, to start off with, a Wunder weapon incorporates element 115, so things like the jet gun aren't a Wunder weapon because it is just a jet turbine. But I'm going to be listing off all the other ones and the abilities they have to about them, all that kind of stuff which I already said. So, starting off with the first gun, the ray gun. Found in every single zombie map since Nectar and Toten, and you can even find it in the Little Resistance mission, which is in the campaign of World at War, by jumping into the 3 holes, and you can use that for the entirety of the mission or until you run out of ammo, whatever. It's upgraded into the Porter's ×2 ray gun, and if you didn't know this already, the person who designed the ray gun in real life for Track was called Henry Porter or something like that. His last name was Porter, so they named it after him. And something interesting with the ray gun is that its direct damage on hit, damage total, isn't as much as its splash damage. And so a lot of people don't really aim for the zombies themselves, they go for the feet because the splash damage is greater, and it's a lot more effective that way because you can control the flow of zombies, you can make crawlers and all that kind of stuff. There's no actual story definition of the ray gun, but a lot of people think it was designed by Group 935, or it was alien technology, or it was designed in the Shinonuma facility, something like that. The story of it is actually currently unknown. And something which I didn't know for the entire duration of me playing World at War is that it is fully automatic, not semi-automatic. I'm not sure if I'm the only one which had that problem, but there you go, it's an automatic gun. And one final thing is that when you do shoot it, you get pushed back. Your entire player gets pushed back every time you shoot it, so that's a nice little interesting feature. Not many of not any of the weapons in the game particularly do that, as the ballistic knife, some of the other Wunder weapons, but the ray gun was definitely the first one to give you that effect. Then we have the ray gun Mark II, which is a successor of the ray gun, and it's a 3-round burst with no splash damage, but it is double the damage of the original ray gun. And it was introduced during the Buried map pack, and then put in all the other maps accidentally, actually. But I believe that if you're not playing online mode, you can still get it in the box in Transit, for example. But if you are online, I don't think you can get it in any of the other Black Ops 2 maps, which is only in Black Ops 2. And supposedly as well in Origins, if you have the golden shovel, you can dig it up. I don't actually know about that, that was just something which someone told me, I haven't seen it happen, but if that is true then let me know in the comment section. But I haven't actually seen it come out the ground, but, you know. It's also one of the weapons which pushes you back when you fire it, but that's the ray gun Mark II. The next thing is the Wunderwaffe, which was introduced in Shinonuma, and it was developed by Group 935, and it's a 115 lightning gun, and it was using the same technology as the teleporters did in Darice. And you first find it in Shinonuma, and then in Darice for the next map, and also in Call of the Dead when you finish the Easter egg. No other maps have the Wunderwaffe, which is really upsetting, which, you know, I would prefer. I think everyone would prefer if it was. In Origins, at least, it would have been nice, although they kind of have that with the lightning staff, but we'll get to that eventually. But there's that. First honourable mention as well, the STG gets an honourable mention because it's not a Wunder weapon, it doesn't use 115. However, in the real world, the STG, or the MP44, which was its code name, it was considered to be a Wunder weapon, and was probably the actual full-functioning Wunder weapon from the Wunder Weapons program, which they had, and it is the first modern-day assault rifle, and it is an extremely extraordinary leap of technology for the time that it was in, but Unfortunately for the Germans, implemented in 1944, 1 year before the war actually ended, and if they had it earlier, things may have gone much differently because it was a devastating piece of equipment. And when you upgrade it, it turns into the Spats Plus 447, also known as the Spats Ass or the Rat's Ass, I don't fucking know, whichever one it is. But that's what his name is, and it just increases, like with all the Wunder weapon upgrades particularly, they just increase in ammo, damage, magazine size, and that's it. Next up is the Monkey Bomb, which is not a Wunder weapon. It was made by Edward Richthofen as his original plan to kill Samantha, but he didn't need it because, well, we all know the story behind that. And the zombies are attracted to that because Samantha is technically inside of the zombies and she basically just wants to see it dance. You can also throw it in the furnace in Derice and it'll scream, and you can throw it in the lava in Transit and it'll stop working and won't even detonate or attract any zombies. And I believe it screams as well in that. Don't quote me on that, but he might or he might not. Although if I was on fire I would be screaming as well. So, the next thing, the Thunder Gun, which is found in Kino to Toten and also in Naxxraman Toten in the Black Ops 1 DLC Resurrection, and it is the Russian equivalent of the Wunderwaffe for the Russians. And what happened was that Maxis went undercover to the Russian research facilities and he basically just developed it with the Russians' help and all that kind of stuff. And it's also known from a quote which Richthofen gave us in Kino to Toten that he called it DG3, so it's kind of the successor to the Wunderwaffe, even though it, I wouldn't say it's better, but it's certainly very different. And some things about the Thunder Gun is that it cannot be reloaded unless the entire magazine is depleted, although I believe there might have been a glitch on the Xbox at some point. I remember seeing someone reload the Thunder Gun when it had one bullet in the magazine, if you can class it as a bullet. But the Thunder Gun does infinite damage in its little cone of effect, and anything outside of that that doesn't instantly die just kind of stumbles around and gets back up again, and that's that. So it upgrades to the Zeus cannon and, like I said, does infinite damage. Next thing is the Winter's Howl, and it's found in 5 and Verrucht in the Black Ops 1 Resurrection DLC. It was made by the scientist at the Pentagon who was part of Operation Paperclip, something which happened during World War II for the Americans to try and take some of the German scientists and bring them over to their side instead of getting captured by the Russians. And it wasn't fully completed. As you can see, when you aim down sight with a weapon, there's a little circuit board on it, and it's not actually complete yet, or it just doesn't have its proper casing fully on it, but it would be nice if it wasn't actually completed and it could have done a much bigger effect given more time to do it. And it freezes all the zombies in its path, and it only slows them at later rounds or to some zombies, but if you shoot them again they will completely freeze and then explode in a lovely glorious icy explosion, which looks really nice. And when it's upgraded it's called the Winter's Fury, and again increased magazine size, damage, all that kind of stuff. Next thing is the Matryoshka dolls, which are questionable to having 115 in them or not, and you can find them in Ascension and Call of the Dead, and nothing is really known about them, like I said, except that they look like Richthofen's team, which is Dempsey, Nikolai Takio, and Richthofen himself. And basically what it does is it's a cluster grenade which does a fudge load of damage, like a literal fudge shop load of damage. It's incredibly damaging. However, against George Romero, it basically does next to nothing, because otherwise he would die instantly if he didn't have a resistance to them. Next up is the Gersh device, and you can only find that in Ascension, and it's not confirmed to using element 115, but I would consider it as much a Wunder weapon as the Group 935 teleporters, because it's basically the Russian equivalent of that. And what it does is that when you throw it down, it creates a portal for players and also the monkeys in Ascension, which you can jump through, and they can jump through, and then you end up in a different part of the map, completely random. What it does to zombies is that it sucks them in and it kills them. Very simple. Done. Next up is the Scavenger, which is only found in Call of the Dead, and it's essentially the next step after the Gersh device, much like the Wunderwaffe is the next step after the teleporters technology. And when you upgrade it, it becomes the Infradead, and it has a little thermal sight which you can use, which is kind of cool because the entire idea of Call of the Dead was that you could snipe on it, so they implemented a sniper rifle style Wunder weapon, and the reason that I say that it's a successor to the Gersh device and equivalent to the Wunderwaffe is that they essentially do the same thing, if you think about it, because you fire down one of the darts from the scavenger and then it creates kind of like a little black hole, a very tiny one which doesn't last all that much, and anything in the vicinity just gets sucked in immediately and dies. So that's what I believe. That could be completely wrong, but that makes sense in my head to be what that's all about. Next up is the VR11, and what that does is that it turns a zombie into a human, which gives off a short-range monkey bomb effect, and eventually that guy will run into water, and it's not really that useful, but that is the main use which people found for it as soon as they got it from the box. Use it against zombies, does nothing in particular. However, if you do shoot the human again, he will explode and kill everything around him. However, by that time, all the zombies will have pretty much blocked the shot anyway, so it's kind of difficult to do that in any kind of effective manner. And if you shoot George Romero with it, when he's in his enraged mode, then he will temporarily stop doing that. And if you shoot players with it, they will gain invisibility to all the zombies and also an insta-kill effect, if it's the upgraded Lazarus, so they can be invisible and kill zombies in one hit. And if you shoot someone with it multiple times, it stacks on top of them, so if you shoot them like 10 times, they basically have like a minute of invisibility and insta-kill, which is pretty devastating. And when you upgrade it, it turns into the VR11 Lazarus, which is essentially the life giver, which that is what the technology is. It's life cells, if you can call it that. Next thing is the 31-Z. Next up is the 31-79JGB215, which is the worst name for any Wunder weapon in the entirety of Call of Duty, and the worst name for anything in the entirety of FPS history, probably. And it was made by Rick Toffen when he was testing out the teleporter on himself during the moon radios. You can hear him teleport, and then he goes to Shangri-La, and he basically became worshipped as a god there. And supposedly it uses technology from the Fountain of Youth, because what it does is that when you shoot zombies with it, they become little tiny babies which get instantly killed when you touch them or shoot them, and it's a very unique Wunder weapon, let's just put it that way. And the name itself is a coordination to where you are, so it's coordinates to Shangri-La, and that's about it. When it's upgraded, it does the exact same thing, except everything's a little bit longer duration, and that's it really. It's not that particularly all that great unless you have someone with stamina running around kicking everything. Next one is the wave gun / zap guns, which you can only find on Moon, and the wave gun is essentially a microwave gun, and it makes zombies float up into the air quite slowly, and then their insides boil and then they explode. And then a little microwave ding is heard when they do explode, because it's like a microwave, essentially. It's a microwave gun. And it was also shown in the Zombie Labs trailer, if we can all remember back to that, which was, you know, was a welcome surprise. What the wave gun also can do is that it can break into two separate guns, which are the zap guns, and they're dual wield, and it's a one-shot, one-kill deal, and it doesn't do any splash damage like the Wunderwaffe is capable of, so they weren't really all that useful. The wave gun was much better, but when you upgrade them, they become the Porters ×2 zap guns, and again, I believe that the wave gun / zap guns were designed by the same guy who designed the ray gun. Also, it doesn't work on the astronaut zombie, unfortunately. Next up is the QED quantum entanglement device, and again, not too sure if it is an actual Wunder weapon. There's no 115 evident in its creation, and what it does is that it just makes random shit happen. Guns appear, ray gun turrets, resets box spins, moves the box, grows bacteria 1 billion times, covers the area in piss and shit and meth and testicles. Fuck knows what it fucking does. Loads of different uses. If you just throw it, something's gonna happen, or nothing's gonna happen. It's just gonna do that default wind thing, which is boring, but it's capable of doing a fuckload of random shit. Random shit. So anyway, we've gone from that and into Black Ops 2. First off, the jet gun, which is not a Wunder weapon because it is just a shitty jet engine, and it isn't even worth the complete waste of time it takes to show the damn thing. Next up is the Sliquifier, and the Sliquifier can only be found in Dire Eyes, and it's the first buildable Wunder weapon, and 115 isn't exactly confirmed for being used in its actual goo, but a key element of the Solidifier is that you have to use it during the Easter egg quest to fill the 2 balls which are key to the Easter egg for Richtofen inside at least, and I would only assume that 115 would be involved in something like that, so it's questionable if it is a Wunder weapon or not. Let's go into it anyway. It's the fastest Wunder weapon which you can get because you can spawn in, go down the lift, get some money out of the showers, I guess, and then put it all together very quickly. It's very, very quick to get, and it is the most OP thing which has ever happened ever in the entirety of the world in history. What's simple about it is that when you shoot it onto the ground, or just shoot it anywhere onto a zombie, it will leave a residue on the ground, which makes you slide around. It loses all traction for you, so you can slide down staircase and stuff like that. If you hit a zombie with it, they will turn to goo, and then it'll pass on to any zombies which are nearby. And essentially what you can do with that is you can clear an entire max spawn of zombies at any round with 3 shots, if you know what you're doing, like you can see in the gameplay on the screen. And you can't pack-punch it, and it looks like a Borderlands weapon. Rowan be praised. Next up is the Paralyzer, and it can only be found in Buried, and when you shoot it at the ground or under a friendly player, you and they are capable of flying, which is very fun, very unique, and personally I find it to be the most fun Wunder weapon out of all of the Wunder weapons which are available. You can also use it to fly yourself over maze doors, which makes the maze essentially useless. It's very easy, so the Paralyzer, if you want to just get through the maze, quite essential. It doesn't kill any of the ghosts which spawn in Buried, it only slows them down, and its general effect is that it slows everything, and it's kind of like a flamethrower in that it does overheat and has to cool down. And it cools down when you hit 115 on the counter, and if you didn't know this, when you pick up scavenger bags from the scavenger perk, it does reduce the cooldown on it, so that's pretty nice. And when you upgrade it, it's called the Petrifier, and you basically can just shoot it for longer. And I also believe that double tap does have an effect, but you can be the judge of that from the gameplay on screen, when before I buy double tap, then after I buy double tap, so you know, you be the judge of if it overheats fast with double tap or not. Next up is the Time Bomb, and again, questionable if it has 115 or not. There's no evidence which says that it is 115 infused, and you throw it down and then click again, and then it'll turn back time to when you put it down. So it's essentially just like a save state in zombies, which is, no, it's an idea, and it was an extremely troublesome idea for the developers because it was still crashing the game like a week before the map pack was even supposed to come out, so that was a big trick to the entirety of zombies. It's probably the most work which they put in, the biggest problem that they've ever had. And you can use it for many different uses, and the main thing it's used for is for getting 2 perks from the ghosts, because when you kill all the ghosts they drop a perk bottle, and if you throw a time bomb down before you kill the last ghost, then take the time bomb and use it, then you get 2 perk bottles, and that's pretty simple. And another thing that it doesn't do is that it doesn't affect the box, so if it has moved you can't reset the box, so the box is completely unaffected, and you have to use it during the Easter egg for certain parts of it, for both Richtofen and Maxis' side, and you can also put it down and then revive people, which is just strange to me because someone can go down, you can put the time bomb down, then revert time, then they'll be revived, which is just kind of weird, I guess. I don't think they should have implemented that, but you can do that with the time bomb. And the last thing, these staves, which get an honourable mention because they aren't necessarily 115 infused. However, it is the common belief that these staves were the original Wunder weapons, and during the time of Origins, Maxis reverse engineered them in order to implement them into the Wunderwaffe and the Thunder Gun and the Winter's Howl in some way, although that isn't actually confirmed. But those are essentially the Wunder weapons of their time, because up until World War I there was no other kind of technology like it, and they've always been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and we've had wind, ice and lightning, but we haven't had fire, which is the one which hasn't actually seen like a proper Wunder weapon of. You could argue that the ray gun is kind of fire, but not really all that much. All the staves pretty much just do the exact same things the Wunder weapons do. Very basic, straightforward. However, the ice staff is used also for putting out the fires on the carts so that you can get zombie blood up by the Pack-a-Punch mound, and I think that's it. So that's all of the Wunder weapons in Call of Duty Zombies, and that's it. So thank you all for watching. Hopefully you have enjoyed this video, and if you did, remember to leave a like rating if you would be so kind as to do so, and subscribe if not subscribed already, and I will see you next time. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.